Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Teacher's Journey podcast. I'm your host, Brian Costello, here to talk with some incredible educators and hear the stories that have made them who they are today. Welcome back to part 2 of this amazing interview with Sandra Paul. In this second part of the interview, Sandra and I will discuss women in technology and leadership, and also developing opportunities for students, all students, to engage in new technology and new technologies so that they have the opportunity to better the future. So enjoy the second part of this interview. It was absolutely incredible.
So I want to take a moment to shift a little bit, because we've been talking about the importance of it and I guess kind of why you do what you do, and how it's built. I think it really has built since you have gotten into education, because I think it's evident from some of your early work all the way through. So I want to shift a little bit. You talked about the human side of all this, and the importance of the human side and the changes we want to see. And I know you and I have talked about this, and I pointed out something I noticed when I walked into a room not that long ago. But talk about your role as an IT director and a woman in leadership, and maybe especially in technology. Talk about what that's been like, and kind of just get into that for me a little bit, because I feel like you have some really important things to share in that area.
Well, it's been pretty lonely, and it can be very intimidating. It has been intimidating. Being that I have been in this role for, to be honest with you, as a technology person and also in the field of education for the past 20-something years, there are very few females that are actually in the field of IT that actually are in a leadership position. And one of the things that I find very interesting is that there are females sometimes in technology, but they're actually on the other end of it, which is more of the instructional side, but not on the actual engineering piece. I actually was speaking to an engineer recently at another conference, which was actually talking about women in IT, and she made a comment that it's very rare to find a woman who's in a situation where you go to a Cisco training and you're the only female among a lot of men, or you could be the only minority person. So for me, I've been in that situation several times. I've been in a training at a Cisco training, and I'm the only female inside the room, learning about firewalls, or learning about configuring switches, and how to do QoS over bandwidth and that type of thing. So that's a very difficult position to be in as a female. But one of the things that I do look at is there's also the question of being that men understanding who I am, and really not only understanding who I am, but I do have a voice and I do have input that could be critical to the situation. I have been faced myself where I was actually replaced by a Caucasian male person, and in a prior position, and it's happened to me several times. And because of that reason, one of the things I see today is the need to really speak up. So even though for the past 20-something years I really haven't said much about it, and I've just basically been very quiet, I finally been able to make my voice heard. I have no idea if it's because I've gotten older and bolder about it. I don't know what it has to be, but I think my biggest thing is my concern about the next generation of girls, because and female engineers, or IT people that are coming up, and the importance of it. I've been doing this 20 years, Brian, and for the first time, I actually have females on my team.
Yeah.
That's never happened to me before, and it's only happened to me the past 3 years. So for 20 years, I had never ever had females on my team. I've always had male team members. So for me, I'm ecstatic about having these young ladies on my team, and I'm really looking forward to supporting them to move forward, to develop their skills even more, and to for them to become leaders in their own rights, and that's how I look at it, the importance, because one of the things that has to understand is girls have to see females in my position. And if they see girls in my position, see another female in my position, they could say, "Hey, I could do that." There's a possibility I could go ahead and become, the next CEO of Facebook, or the CEO of Microsoft, or the CEO of anywhere. Now, there are some female CEOs that already, exist. HP had a female, I think still has a female CEO. I know that, Facebook about Sheryl Sandberg, and there's several out there. And but we as females, we have been big contributors to technology over the years, but it's just never heard. And I'm quite sure the movie Hidden Figures really brought it to light about it's not only just females, but there are also African American females that played a big part in our technology revolution or evolution over the years. And I think that's important for me as a female to speak up for my own nieces, my own grandnieces, that type of thing, so that other girls can see that they can do it.
And I love that. And I think that honestly, it never was one of those things that I just never really thought that much about. But when I look back at my career as a teacher and as a student, I can't think of a female in the IT department, whether it was when I was in college or at any of the teaching positions I've worked at, not just in a leadership position, but yet in any position at all, in the IT departments. And I think to myself, how can that possibly be the case? It just is. And without any slight to the people who are working in those positions, that has nothing to do with their ability whatsoever. It has to do with the fact that they're just not there.
Yeah.
And like I said to you when we bumped into each other, I said I was in a room full of giving a presentation to a room full of IT directors, and none of them were female.
Yeah.
There was one female in the room, and she wasn't one of the directors. She was someone who worked at the facility as a technology integration specialist. So
right.
it was like, oh wow, and not everybody who works in the counties where I was at was in this room, but a number of them were, and I don't know if all of them would have come if I would have found one female in the room anyway.
Right.
But yeah, it's just, and you think it's one of those things that you don't think too much about until someone points it out, and then you think, oh wow.
Yeah.
When people come, I've had people come in and out of my room the past year working, because my room happens to be filled with switches and wiring, not just for the security systems, but for other parts.
Yeah.
I
was like, I think people, we put our wiring and stuff anywhere.
Well, there's a very convenient closet. It's
exactly
located for the hallway.
Yeah.
That side of the hallway, and it's easy access to the upstairs. And there's a lot of places and for a while it wasn't being used as a classroom until I took it over. So
Yeah.
It makes sense that there's a lot of wiring and stuff in there, but I've had people in and out of my room for the past, I want to say 14 months, like working on infrastructure, and not just the people in our building, but also our outside contractors. Not one person is a female. Not
Yeah.
one. And while you kind of shake your head and say, yeah, none of that shocks you whatsoever, I feel like it should shock me. Well, it did shock me as much as I didn't think about it until after the fact. But as I look back on it, I think, wow.
And the thing is that the awareness of it. Now that and that's one of the things.
Can't unsee it now.
Yeah, because you're aware of it and everything else, but as you become aware of it and recognize it and everything else, what it does, it then gives you a point of conversation to have a conversation regarding this topic, because that's one of the things that needs to be really discussed. It needs to be discussed that if 50% of workers in the United States are female, why is it less than 3% in the field of technology are females? That's
even more skewed in education. In education, the numbers are even more skewed because it's not 50% of the workforce anymore. It's way more in terms of female to male ratio. I mean, I've worked in a number of places where I'm the only male.
Right.
Like, it's me and the custodian and the gym teacher, and it's like you're like, oh.
Yeah, in education, yes, we do have a lot more female.
But there's still not women in technology and education as much. Now, like you said, there's some more headway into the instructional technology side, but on the engineering side, I think that really blew me away when you brought that up, because I tried to search my memory for anyone, not just in leadership, but in general, and no one comes up.
There are very few. There are very few females that are actual engineers, and not that they don't exist. They do exist, and I can tell you they exist because my husband has worked for years, many years, from AT&T, and some of his colleagues are females. So they're out there. But when you look at the ratio, it's not that many. And then when you look at it in education, it's not that many of us are actually working on both sides, which is the instructional and also the infrastructure, the engineering piece. So when you look at that type of thing, it's, this has made you aware, but also the conversation we're having right now is important, because as long as we're having the conversation and everything else, well, can I say that certain things will resolve it? Yes. Coming back to the original discussion, exposing students to these type of things and being able to expose that type of thing to them. One of the things that I did in another school district was I had developed a Cisco Academy. And in developing the Cisco Academy, one of the things that happened was that it didn't happen immediately, but after a couple of years, we started having girls that were part of the Cisco Academy. And I don't know if you know, the Cisco Academy actually leads to Cisco certification. So, the kids could actually take the industry standard testing for A+ security Cisco testing, and they would be able to get their certificate and be able to go out into the workforce and work with this industry standard certificate. But the last couple of years I was there, we landed up having females that were involved in that type of thing, and it was really interesting to see what the stuff that they had done. And one of the young ladies had applied for a grant from NC WIT. Now, NC WIT is, I think, the National Women of, I think it's computing in information technology or something like that. But this is this organization that talks about getting more women into the field of technology. And she applied for a grant, and with her teacher, who also happened to be a female teacher, they got the grant, and they were able to do a coding camp for our middle school students. And that was very successful. So, I mean, it's something that we need to look at, because we need to expose the students to that type of thing. And that's where the change is going to take place. The change is going to take place if we're looking for more females in the field of technology and that type of thing. It's going to change basically when we provide the ability for students to learn about those type of things in our K-12 environment. Another story regarding that was there was a CAD program, and then we had developed it. This is my previous school district, developed a robotics program, and then the teacher was he was amazing. He was an amazing teacher. And one of the things that he did was he had this robotics competition within the classroom and stuff. And there was one team that was all girls. And I asked him, I was like, how did that happen? He's like, I have no idea. It's just by accident. I was like, perfect. So, it was great. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you I can't remember if they won the competition. But it was just girls alone. It was just girls alone. And, it's like also when I walked into one of the wood shops and was talking to the wood shop teacher, and there were 3 girls that were in there using wood shop tools and creating stuff, had a whole conversation with one of them. And I was like, how do you like working with your hands? And how do you like doing the stuff? And she was like, Miss Paul, this is really cool. I'm able to do this kind of thing. That's the type of thing you're looking for, those type of, girls to go into those type of fields. And even though you may say to yourself, well, that was robotics and wood shop, what does the two have to do with technology? They have a lot to do with technology. And, it's not realized that these young ladies will definitely move forward to becoming, maybe someone in the field of IT and doing a lot more engineering and that type of thing.
Yeah, and I'd say, so this year I started working in a robotics program, and I teach middle school robotics.
Yeah, great.
And I have some amazing girls.
Wow, that's good.
Now my numbers, I'll be honest, I'm hoping they'll balance out a little more next year. My numbers were somewhere around 65-35.
Oh, nice.
Which, but they have to take one of the 3 courses. So there's bound to be some females. I had a class with 1 female out of 16 students. So there's 1 girl and 15 boys. Now, that girl was fantastic in the class.
Right.
In fact, a number of times I've found that my female teams, for robotics especially, like they do a lot of, design challenges in the class, and my female teams a lot of times outperform them. There's definitely something about a group of girls who are into engineering that it just, when you get a couple of girls together who are really into it and really want to work at it, they really do amazing things.
Yeah, they do.
And it's really fun to see. It's fun to see, those groups, especially when it's, I have 1 team of girls and then 4 or 5 teams of boys in class, and the 1 team of girls is crushing everybody because they work together. They work together so much better at times than some of the football boys.
Yeah. And the whole idea behind it, and and you understand also the other part of it is that the main thing, one of the things I from our conversation here is not that this is really a girls versus boys things, because it's like and I'm Brian, I have boys and my boys have boys. You know what I mean? So, so yes, I am one of the few females among my own family. But at the same time, even understanding that the whole idea is looking at it from a perspective is that it's not boys versus girls, but it's providing an opportunity for girls to be exposed to this whole idea about engineering, the technology piece, understanding these type of mechanical things. That's, where we need to basically, giving them that opportunity, but also providing the opportunity to everyone, because it's not only just, girls versus boys. It's also the other part about it is minority students, making sure they have an opportunity to experience these things, because some kids will get these experiences from homes, some kids will not. And as K-12 educators, my thing is that I see that as a major responsibility to provide these opportunities for these kids. And that's where the whole idea of equity for our students come into play when it comes to the area of technology. The opportunity for them to be to learn these type of new skills that are going to be there for the 21st and 22nd century. And giving them that opportunity to be exposed to it, to see if they like it, see if they want to move forward with it. And then it's up to them to go forward with how they want to do what they want to for their lives, and for their future.
I think that's really, one, I think it's really, really powerful. And two, I think it pulls us back around full circle really well, is that it's not about girls and getting girls into technology specifically. It's about providing them with that opportunity and showing them that what's possible.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if we are exposing half of that group of seniors that are about to walk out the door to, what's possible in the world, and half of them aren't getting it, we're still missing so many.
Yes.
And we really need to give every one of those kids the opportunity, because otherwise, you said you're hoping, you were hopeful, 10 to 20 years, we could see some amazing advances in medicine and technology around the world that would make the world a much better place. But what if it was 5 years or 3 years? Because we got that kid, and the kid who was going to have that idea, they got to have that idea 5 years faster, because they had an exposure to it when they were 13,
yes,
or 10, or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden 6, and they built on it from there because they had the opportunity to do so.
Right.
And so I love that. I love that whole aspect, the whole concept of we have a responsibility to provide kids with opportunities and exposure to technology and to design and engineering and that type of mechanical thinking that will provide some of our students in the future with the opportunity to make major changes in the world, in the way we live. And so while we could continue to do this for probably a few more hours, I'm sure we probably already have another time. So I think that's an amazing place, that we really came around full circle and kind of tied it together, a really great piece of conversation there. Before we end things here, I would love for you as someone who's been doing this for so long, and you said has become more vocal and trying to point out the things that you see in the world. What advice for young women and just young people in general, but specifically young women who are interested in engineering or technology or in educational technology, what advice would you give them to kind of pursue that as someone, like I said, who's been kind of pioneering things for closely, I don't want to say how long, but for well over 20 years. What would you say to those people?
I would say to a student and everything else is, if you have that interest and that passion, don't let anyone stop you. If you really believe that this is what you want to do, don't let anything get in your way. Because one of the things that you might have to be patient, you might have to wait your turn, but don't let that fire or that light diminish. Because the thing is that you are important. There is a reason why you have this light and this passion for what, if you want to be in the field of engineering, technology, mechanics, that type of thing. There is a reason for it. And, if someone gets in your way of trying to stop you and everything else, you either might have to wait for a little bit, but if you can get around the person and move forward and can fulfill what you feel passionate about when it comes to this, with the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or mechanics, whichever way you want to look at it. Because the thing is that you're needed, and your thought pattern is needed. We cannot do this alone. This is not something, the whole future cannot take place with just one person. It takes place with a collaboration of people. And the collaboration of people includes females, minorities, everyone. So that's what my encouragement would be. And if anything, find someone that will mentor you to give you ideas of how you could move forward with your career, or move forward with your courses, or whatever it is, in order to stay in the field, because it's really needed. And you want to be a model for the next generation that's coming. And just like I would be a model for the generation coming after me, there needs to be more models as time goes by. And that's what's important. And that's how I would advise you. Don't let that fire burn out, number one. And number two, if you can find a mentor, or to be able, and if you are a person that wants the mentor, find someone you want, a mentee that you could reach out to, and maybe help them to move forward with their passions and with their loves when it comes to the technology. I'm quite sure everyone who's hearing this hears how passionate I am, and how driven I am in trying to ensure that our kids of today are being prepared for the world tomorrow, and not only for the world tomorrow, but for their world tomorrow. So if you hear it in me speaking this way and everything else, the same thing is going to happen to another young lady somewhere. And I think it's something that's wonderful to have in this world.
I couldn't agree more. So I think this has been a really, really important and powerful conversation that I hope many, many people have the chance to listen to, because it really is something that, they said, as soon as my eyes were open to it, I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. So thank you so much for taking the time to share this with me and with my mom, who will be listening, and and anybody else who's going to take the time to listen to this really, really fantastic message. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Brian, for having me on. And I appreciate that you wanted to hear my story, and that that now that your eyes are open also regarding this, realize also for your own kids, for your own nieces and everything else, the importance of realizing that if they are leading in the field of technology, engineering, and science and mathematics, that yes, be a support, be there for them in any way you can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And I hope everybody enjoys this podcast, reaches out to you if they need any guidance, or, want to
anytime
find somebody who's passionate and incredible when it comes to this stuff. So again, thank you. And we'll catch everybody next time on The Teacher's Journey.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.